Hey, welcome to the Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch, here on Big Condo Radio, right in the middle of Big Condo Academy. So, yes, we're still open and we're out there. So, please like and subscribe because, as you know, I've been endeavoring to have these very interesting conversations, these one on one conversations with people from the community that I find interesting and I hope you will find interesting as well. And I'm joined today by a very fascinating young man that was introduced to me by our good friend James Dibbo. And this is Ashleigh Nugent, an author and everything, who's sitting here in the studio with me today. Hello, Ashleigh.
Thank you very much for having me, Chase, and thank you very much for complimenting me by calling me an author. I appreciate that.
Yo, bruv. Listen, man, you wrote a book called Locks.
Yes, man.
Which we're actually going to look at a trailer for this book, and it's on Amazon, so it's available now.
It's available on Amazon now, or from News from Nowhere as of the end of this week.
You know, you gotta love News from Nowhere because they're an actual shop here in Liverpool that is offering local authors, writers to display their books, because our good friend Patrick Graham has also had his book out there. So maybe I should go down there and put my book on sale, because you know.
You should, and lots of marginalised people are represented in News from Nowhere as well. It's a fantastic shop. So yeah, get along to News from Nowhere if you want a copy. Otherwise, click on the link on Amazon.
Otherwise, just go on Amazon.
Jeff Bezos needs a few quid.
You know you're not going out of the house.
Exactly. As of tomorrow, you're not going anywhere if you're in Liverpool.
Well, you know, we want people from all over the world to read your book, Locks. You know what I mean? So yes. It's like which you say is a fictional story, but based on your kind of like real life experiences. You know, to protect the innocent.
I would call it a literary memoir. That means it's a memoir with some parts fictionalized, so changed names, and you know, orders of events in some places to make the narrative flow. I'm not saying it's all 100% true, but what happens, the main thrust and the main narrative, all did happen.
Yeah, I mean, now we're gonna go into the story about Locks, but you know, maybe what we should do is show this video that you put together. You know, we should show that first and everything, because then everything else, you know, because I think we've already had like an hour-long conversation before the show started. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna cut to that video. So this is the trailer for Locks, which is on sale and available now on Amazon. So we're gonna go right to that now.
Anything that didn't fit in a bank did not belong. 1993 was the year that Stephen Lawrence got murdered by racists, and I became an angry black lad with a chip on his shoulder. I decided that I had to make something happen, because it seemed to me that the story of my life had been written in the decisions, opinions, and actions of other people. So here I am, in Jamaica. Problem was, most of what I knew about slavery came from Bob Marley songs. You want some of this, white boy? Hey, England, he said. He raised a knife. And as I sat there in a Jamaican prison cell, nursing multiple stab wounds, I knew for sure that as long as I survived this thing I'd made happen, this would form the basis of my first book. There is no turning back. Our hero has entered the world of the adventure. The Rasta looked at me like he knew something I didn't know. To give a little something in return may well save your life tonight, little rude boy. Everybody wants to be free, to develop their own identity in their own time.
Hey, so now we're back. You know what? Listen, that was, you know, when I saw that, you sent it to me first, and I said, "Oh, wow, yeah, this is going to be a really good read."
Yeah,
you know.
And can I just say, Jonathan Hall, if anyone wants a trailer or anything, you can contact me. I'll put you onto him. I gave that guy just the footage from me performing a one-man show based on Locks at the Unity. and that's it. And I thought what you'd do was kind of like a montage of bits of the show, and he came up with that. It's like, the guy's a genius.
You know, but see, like, the thing about it is, I guess leading, like, kind of to a first conversation is that what I liked, you know, with the text and everything, you know, it says, like, black, in, like, in England, you're a black lad, and in Jamaica, you're a white boy. And, like, yeah, I've been to Jamaica. I love Jamaica. Right? Brothers are pretty ebbing in Jamaica. So I can understand how a mixed race lad could come along and go, hey, you white boy. But you told me that there was a discovery of shadism. And I just thought that was an interesting place to start because, you know, you're a mixed race lad, as you said. We're going to go more into your mixed race history here in Liverpool, which I also found fascinating. But shadism, I think, is interesting because people don't really talk a lot about that, you know, about being mixed race. Because I was talking to a young lady before. She's half Chinese and half Chinese, half black, and I was like, well, you know, there must be something around. What do you consider yourself? So growing up here in Liverpool, you know, you said your father's Jamaican, right? And your mother's white. So
Scottish.
Well, you know what? Let's make that clear because my grandmother's Scottish. So I'm going for it. I'm going for it, man. I'm going for it. My grandmother's Scottish, man. You know?
It matters.
It does, actually, because you know what? Black and white, they're just freaking colors. They're not actual nationalities. So tell me a little bit about shadism from your point of view that you put it into the trailer.
Okay, well, when I say in England he's a black lad and in Jamaica he's a white boy, they are not my terms. They are terms foisted upon me by other people. Other people decided when I was too young to know. My dad was 6'2" and had an afro, massive afro and an afro beard and fancy suits because he worked hard.
To pair suit because you're talking about 70s.
And people would say to me, I was 5, 6 years old. They say to me, "You're coloured. Your dad's coloured. You're half caste." These kind of things, and these terms made no sense to me. I remember, this is in the book. I remember looking in the mirror and looking for those lines of colour: purple, red, yellow, because that's what coloured means.
Yeah.
I could not see that my dad, even though he was a 6'2" black guy with a massive afro and afro beard, I could not see that he looked different to everybody else's dad, because in the place I grew up, everybody else pretty much was white. A couple of Asian people, and pretty much. And I couldn't see the difference. And children, because why would that be a thing? It makes no sense to a child's mind why that would be a thing.
It would be a thing because most of them were white skinned. So.
But it was their parents that told them I was different.
Of course
they didn't come up with that. See, so the very idea of race, obviously race as we now know it didn't always exist. Women in Shakespeare's time were thought of as a race. The Irish, even not so long ago, were thought of as a race. This idea of race that we have now, this 3-tier system, was developed by the European empires. And they put Negroid, this horrible term, at the bottom. And they put Caucasoid at the top. And what they called at the time, you know, developing this system, Mongoloid, you know, so them Chinese. They put that somewhere in between. But black people were kept at the bottom for a particular reason, as we all know, and it does relate to slavery, and it does relate to colonialism, and it does relate to power, and it also relates to dividing and conquering poor people, poor black people, and poor, as you'll well know in America, laws were brought in to make sure that black people and poor white people did not get together. And also, you know, in early Virginia, for example, when there was a massive uprising, a guy called Nathaniel Bacon led an uprising of poor whites and poor blacks who weren't getting the land the whites coming from England were promised after they'd done their indentured labour. And in order to make sure there wasn't ever another uprising, they wrote into law black people and white people can't intermarry. A black guy cannot sleep with a white woman. People who have been slaves cannot have certain powers and certain rules, and that starts to create this system whereby the poor whites start to think, well, I might be poor, but I'm better than them. At least I'm not one of them.
You know, the problem with that is that the white masters always slept with black women, their black slave women all the time.
Notice how I pointed out the gender aspect of that law. There was no law against white guys sleeping with black women.
It happened all the time. All the time.
Of course it did.
You know,
usually against their consent.
Well, mostly against their consent, not usually. Mostly. Let's get the words right, man. You're a wordsmith, bro. You know what I mean? But I mean, no, it's just amazing because we all are victims of this cold kind of shadism because, like, you know, I mean, You know, my ex-wife was a White Scouser, so we had a son, and like we would in at a very early age we would tell him that he was golden brown. Do you know what I mean? And you know, till it permeates him and it thinks him, and then as I think about it, it's like it caused confusion when he had to see the black side of his family. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, no, they're still your family, bro. You know what I mean? So it's horrible. I mean, how? I mean, like, so did was that infected into you that you were mixed or golden, or did it give it a name for you, your parents?
No, we didn't really discuss it in the house. My parents, like a lot of people who emigrated here, my dad came just a few years after the actual Windrush, you know.
Yeah, after the Windrush. We want to make that clear.
And early 60s, and he faced, in the NHS, where both my mum and dad worked, they faced all kinds of horrendous racism. It was just normal in those days.
Yeah.
So the rumour was my mum, she was a beautiful woman, so the rumour was that she was a prostitute, and the other one was that she was burned, horribly scarred from fire from the neck down. That's why she was with a black man. These kind of things were just commonplace.
So that's a rumour. Let's make that clear. That's a rumour. Right?
Now, these kind of things were commonplace. Otherwise, why would she be married to a black man? So the way that they dealt with that really was by, I think a lot of people who emigrated here dealt with it by ignoring it, by going, you know what, I've got opportunities in this country to work my way up the ladder. They're no better than me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to rise to what they're saying, and I'm just going to shove it down there and pretend it doesn't exist and move forward. And I respect that, but that didn't work for us because we were born here and we don't feel like it's lucky to be here.
and yeah, but it's also unfortunate that we have to swallow a lot of shit.
Of course it is.
But I mean, like, cause like, but also too is you wanted to make it a point, which I think it is. It is an interesting point. Is that, you know, you were brought up in a nice area. You know, like, so your father, who was a lecturer, and your mom, who was a nurse, who became a matron. You know, you grew up in Rain Hill.
They did very, very well for themselves. I call the village Sea Bank in the book, but you know, it was a leafy suburb, and
it is very leafy in Rain Hill if you've never been there.
I think it's important to make this clear because you know what I'm trying to do in the book is break down this idea of that there are binary ways of identifying, of categorizing human beings. Oh, you're either black or you're white.
Yeah.
And what happens when we strip those from us? And you know, the same thing for sexuality or gender, but also for class. Class isn't that simple. There isn't just like rich people and poor people. And you know, if you're working class, the middle class aren't your enemy. But people like to put themselves in these little boxes and think of everybody else as being the enemy. And it's a limited and limiting way of seeing the world, and it's not realistic. The world doesn't work like that. The universe don't work like that. Like I talk about heroes and villains in this as well. You know, the Maroons of Jamaica, for example, are they heroes or are they villains?
Well, listen, man, I had to educate somebody on the Maroons on another podcast, man, because Nanny is like, I mean, phenomenal.
A hero, an absolute hero. Exactly. But then some Maroons did sign treaties and go and capture runaway slaves for the British, etc. So,
well, look, man, you
have to look at both sides of history.
Good. She was good.
I'm not talking about Nanny. I'm talking about what I'm saying. Some Maroons did, and what I'm saying is it's too simplistic to go. There was these baddies that enslaved, and there was these goodies that ran away. Yeah. And we have to do that with British history too now, with all these questions about statues and these figures like Winston Churchill and Lord Leverhulme and so on, H.G. Wells. We have to be honest. It's okay to say these people were imperfect because the world is, we're not living in some Hollywood fantasy of goodies and baddies. The world ain't like that, you know.
No, but also too it's important to recognize that you can say people are imperfect as long as you say that they had the same experiences, and we don't whitewash away these experiences. And what I mean, you know, because like, you know, as I say, I'm always like trying to bring up different things, you know, like The Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody always looks at D.W. Griffith's film as a racist film.
Yeah.
It's a propaganda film, right? And what it is, it's a jealous film. It's made out of jealousy because what people refuse to remember, right, in Birth of a Nation is that what were the white people jealous of? They were jealous of the fact that the blacks were giving power. They were in City Hall. They were politicians. So what they would say is they were lazy, shiftless, eating fried chicken, barefoot, and all that. And we see these images. And this is what they were jealous of. And this is why they needed somebody, mysteriously, like the Klan, to come in and to wipe them out. And so it was very much a heroic film for the Klan to get rid of the blacks who were in power.
Indeed, and without even.
But did you remember that?
Oh yeah. I know about Birth of a Nation. Yeah. Without
bruv, am I right? Because I'm just saying, nobody talks about that.
It's definitely a way of seeing it, and you know, we could end up talking all day about whether Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation was certainly taken on by many people with less than legitimate views about the amount of melanin and how that affects your behaviour. And it was taken on board by people and used in such a way as to be deemed now a very racist movie. But that's a whole other discussion.
No, it is. I was just only really just trying to say about, like, it's like looking at the other way of it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's saying the real thing is that blacks had too much power.
Yeah.
And so people don't remember that bit.
Well, it's like Enoch Powell talking about, you know, the black man having the whip hand. What the fear was that they've oppressed a certain kind of people, and people always like nowadays go on about how slavery isn't a racial thing because the Romans had slaves and Muslim slaves and the African blah blah blah. But this particular system of transatlantic slavery became a racial thing for specific historical reasons, and now we're living with the historical aftermath of that situation. That's where we're at the moment, and we have to be upfront and honest about that. It is racialised. Sorry, I can't remember the point I was trying to get to then. What were we talking about?
I don't know. Let's get back to the book.
Let's get back to the book. Locks. Right on camera. Locks.
Ooh, well, he's here talking about his book called Locks. So, pretty much what I wanted to talk about in that is that in this prison, you describe it very vividly. To the point where people should not want to go, because I don't. The strong room. Yeah. And what I want to hear more about is because I think that we romanticize prison a little bit, you know, like Oz, you know, and everything. And it doesn't matter how long you were there, right? Short or long time. But the point was, the conditions that you were in should be enough that I don't want to go there. So tell us a little bit about the strong room, the place of safety, by the way, for boys.
Yeah. So the cops in Hanover, it was called a place of safety for boys. I was 16 years. I had my 17th birthday in there, actually.
Did you? Did they give you a cake?
No. I watched a couple of friends drown the next day.
Jeez, man, that went dark real quick.
Yeah, man. The crazy things happened. But I was 16, so it was like I gathered they were like 21 years and under in there, because some of them were a bit older than me. A lot of younger kids were. But in the strong room, it was a place of punishment. Yeah. I don't know why they put me there as soon as I arrived. We can only guess. But it was an underground dungeon in a tropical country. The toilets didn't flush and hadn't flushed for a long time, it would seem. The taps didn't run. And some of the lads in there, imagine an underground dungeon in a tropical country, and you didn't leave 24/7. And some of the guys had been in there, they told me, for over 2 months. I think one of them said he'd been in there 3 months. That's 3 months without a change of clothes, without a wash, without a decent meal, without a flushing toilet, without a tap to even wash your face in. Because you can imagine how these guys felt, and most of them, there was maybe about 14 of us in there, but when they put me and these other two lads in there, and they were all, there was 4 of them that I'd say were younger than me, and all the rest of them like my age or older, so, you know. And obviously I walked in there in a big pair of red, some of them didn't own shoes, Chase. You've been to Jamaica. This was 93 as well.
Well, they had like sandals, you mean, or no socks?
No shoes. No shoes. These are real poor kids.
Oh, yeah.
You understand? Who were banged up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
They didn't own shoes, some of them. Yeah. And I walk in there in a big pair of red boots, big fancy corduroy baggy pants, you know, big fancy shirt.
Serious white boy, huh?
Serious white boy, talking the way that I talk as well. Because I think this is another issue with the class thing that I bring into it.
Educated.
Is that, well, I wouldn't say I was educated at the time because I got nothing from school. I'm educated now, but I wasn't then. I hated school, and I did very, very poorly in school. But because I was brought up in a place where my parents are educated, I was, everybody around me was white.
Yeah.
I don't express myself maybe in a way that would have maybe helped me to fit in better. with rough lads in Jamaica. Yeah. You understand?
A vernacular or a colloquialism.
Exactly. A street vernacular, you know.
That's some deepness, Mira. I mean, like, what I wanted to do is like, so pretty much just like locks. I mean, you know, hopefully it would be a fascinating, eye-opening tale to read. But what I wanted to jump to was the present, you know, because what I find fascinating is, because you had this whole opinion around rehabilitation as well, but what I find fascinating is that this was 27 years ago, right? These experiences, and when you're back there in the strong room, right, you have no concept of what tomorrow looks like. So now, giving you the power of Doctor Who, you're in the present, looking back. You're a family man. You're married. You have two children, 14 and 8, and stuff like that. And actually, we put the time of this show because you got to go do the school run.
Yes.
Right? So, how is it? I mean, did you imagine yourself in this place you are now back then?
No. I imagined at 21 years of age.
Yeah.
A few years after that, you know, I got arrested exactly a year after I got stabbed in Jamaica. I got stabbed just before I got arrested a couple of days earlier. Exactly a year after I got stabbed in Jamaica, I got arrested trying to stab someone, a racist person, outside the nightclub in Witness. You know.
Now, he's trying to make it seem like he's justified, but no.
No, yeah, he was a nasty person. I'm the goodie, they're the baddie. No, it wasn't justified at all. It was stupidness. Oh, okay. But I'm just making the point that my life went in a certain direction, and it wasn't until I was 21 that I started even reading books. You understand? And ended up back in college, university, and so on. Like, I'm educated now, but I wasn't then. But despite all that, I still, when all this was happening at the time, I always wanted to be a writer.
See?
And I also had, I guess, I don't know, you could call it a sense of entitlement whereby I thought that one day I will succeed, but I kind of like a lot of young creative people, I kind of thought one day someone will come along and go, you're really talented, here's £1 million, go and do some great stuff, you know.
What, the white savior, right? You know, little one, but
and that unfortunately didn't happen, Chase.
It doesn't happen in the real world, people. Stop looking at the white shadow. It doesn't happen.
20 years later.
Yeah.
20 years later, you know, hard graft, hard study, avid reading on a daily basis, learning, and I'm still just trying to catch up with myself.
Putting
the work in, you know, and I've putting the work in, Chase, to have a successful family as well, to develop as a writer, to develop a company, to be a dad, and to develop a mindset that can be okay no matter what the hell's going on out there with these, you know, situations that we get put into without going any deeper, to be able to, it takes study and work and learning just to know how to be okay.
But it also it also takes caring, doesn't it? It also takes a certain type of person to be a motivational, inspirational type of person, which it sounds like, you know, you found yourself in, because 5 years ago you set up a company, a CIC, which he thought I didn't know what it was, called Rise Up, right? Rise Up, brother. All right, what do we do? What are we?
That's the Rise Up.
Because of his hair, he would get on his one knee, like Collins, whatever his name is. We ain't got time for that, bro.
There's so much we could talk about, Chase.
Yeah, right. Ain't got time. But let's talk about transforming the mindset of young people, and including all ages, as you say. But tell me about Rise Up.
Okay, so Rise Up, you know, what we do, we work in prisons primarily, also in schools and with all kinds of people. We've done knife crime projects, all kinds, but mainly in prisons. And I think if everybody deserves to have the same information regarding how to be okay in life, and you know, the kind of things that we teach, we use the arts to get people in the room. So freestyle rap, classical music, drama.
So we're going to get people in.
It gets people in. It gets people relaxed, builds rapport, gets them chatting, gets them opening up. But then we also, alongside the artists, we bring in specialists in how the mind and emotions work.
That's what I thought was really interesting, the whole NLP approach. Because,
so we bring in NLP specialists, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy specialists, psychotherapy, transactional analysis specialists.
Transpersonal psychology. Don't act like I don't know, bro.
All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if the people watching know what those things are. This is basically how we interact with each other.
Exactly.
How to get the most out of each situation.
Nice.
How to express oneself well. How to avoid anxiety. How to get a good night's sleep. How to feel okay. And you know what? If you're in kind of a white-collar job, I've got a lot of friends who work, in corporate jobs. And I tell them some of the things we've been studying in our classes with Rise Up. And they go, oh, I went on a course doing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Politicians pay grands to study this stuff. That's why they all do the same hand movements and you bang the desk in the same way, because they know how to influence people because they taught it.
Oh, you mean talking with the pen?
And pointing with the thumb and all that stuff. They're taught to do that. It's not a coincidence.
No.
Also, business people, sales people. They go to classes to learn how to talk in a way that influences people, how to stay calm under pressure. Now,
I love it how you sit up straight like you got a rod.
Yeah, man. well, I get you were talking about samurai earlier. Okay, let's not go there. Okay, right. I've 2 decades of practice. Now, at least. Now, everybody should have the same information. So what I said to you earlier, Chase, was we don't talk about rehabilitating people because I think that's patronising. Right. If people want to take that information and turn their life around in whatever way they choose, that is up to them. I have no right to tell people or ask people to change or rehabilitate or to be more like me. What a nonsense. If they want to take that information, then at least if we all have the same information, we level the playing field and no one's at a disadvantage to not having some very simple, basic information on how to control your own thoughts and therefore feelings and therefore actions, no matter what situation you're in and no matter what other people are doing.
Wow. So if I
have to stop myself. That's enough, Ash.
Hey. If I wanted to, Rise Up, you told me that it's available for all ages. I assume, for organizations or whatever. So can you tell me, how one could find Rise Up and to be a part of it or to hire it or whatever?
Google us. So Rise Up. Rise Up.
Rise Up CIC, right? Because there's a lot of Rise Ups.
Yeah, if you put in Rise Up CIC, you'll definitely come straight to our website. Yeah. But Rise Up CIC, go to the website. Indeed, contact me straight directly through the website, or indeed if you look up any of the Locks book on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not very good with social media, but I'm there, folks. I'm there for the sake of Locks, and you can contact me and find out information. And we have reams and reams of impact measurement with people that we work with in prisons and what they say about how this impacts their lives.
Yeah, so there's a lot of promotional testimonials around it and everything like that. But I mean, obviously, it sounds like a great project that you're working on.
It's beautiful work.
As well as the book also sounds like very interesting. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you wanted to contact Ashleigh or to continue the conversation, as you said, he's Ashleigh Nugent on all the social media platforms. Now, let's help Ashleigh out because he doesn't seem to know about Twitter and Instagram and everything. You got one though, don't you?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
All right, so don't tell me that you're.
but as Locks book. Locks book, because I've only gone on there to to do me Locks stuff because I'm not big on it,
Exactly, but I mean, the main thing about it though is that I just think that it's been a fascinating conversation with you, and it also helps us to continue having these conversations with people around Black excellence during Black History Month here. So I encourage you to again, not just look out for Locks, but to purchase it on Amazon.
Locks, folks.
Let's help the brother out. Look at this, man. You know what I mean? But I mean, if you're interested in the project around transforming lives of people, then look for Rise Up CIC as well and everything. So I'd like to thank you for joining me here on Big Condo Radio.
Such a pleasure.
Well, thank you, man, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share as well. But I would like to thank James DeBow for recommending me that. Hey, this
Thank
is
you,
the
James.
one. See, he's been waiting all video just for us to say thank you, James.
It was James that hooked us up. Peace, James. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he was the brother with the hookup. So anyway, Ashleigh Nugent, thank you very much for joining us here. I'm Chase Johnson Lynch. You've been watching the Community Podcast, and you know what? I'm out of here. So.